All right, everyone, welcome back to now, or I shouldn't say welcome back. This is something new that we are talking about today. Welcome to GLCC season number 2. It's exciting to be back at it again, once again with some more monotype madness. We went second overall after playoffs last season, eking it into the finals and then getting absolutely wiped by Sir Blue, who won the whole thing, so congratulations to him. I will not be uploading any sort of like retrospective video on season 1, unfortunately, as I'm pretty busy this weekend doing things like this, preparing for season 2, as well as just getting a lot of schoolwork done and things like that. So I am pretty happy about the season previously, but a pretty poor performance in finals the more and more I think about that game, and I'm looking forward to running it back in season 2 with a new type. So as you can see on the screen here, the Seattle Slashers have elected to pick up a monotype-poison team, and it's a pretty different typing, I think, relative to the dragon type that I had last season in season 1. Dragons, a lot of them are very, very like high tier, like costly in terms of points Pokemon. A lot of them hit super hard and have really good stats, and Poison is not the same. It's a bit more slept on as a type. I think that it's definitely gotten a lot better over the generations. Obviously in like Gen 1 and in the early gens, the Poison type was pretty atrocious, but overall I think that it's actually a pretty solid type, especially defensively. It does have some offensive holes that need to be remedied when you're creating a monotype team, but I do think that I have done that, and overall I'm pretty happy with the team that I got. Firstly, to discuss the draft, again, the way that the GLCC draft works is that in round 1 you're going to pick a Pokemon and then pick one of its types as your monotype, and that's how that works. And so I was pick number 8 this time. Last time I was pick number 7. I've been very fortunate to have like kind of in the middle picks, so I can get some information about what some of the other types are going to be, but I also am not right at the very tail end where there's not very many good types remaining. I'd say the middle in terms of getting a type and a sort of like balance between matches up well and is still a good type is one of the best places to be. I don't really think there's necessarily a bad place to be in the draft, but the middle is definitely quite nice, so you can plan your picks accordingly. And so, anyways, round 1, we decided to pick up Slowking Galar, or I guess formally his name is Galarian Slowking. This Pokemon is outstanding, and one of the reasons why I grabbed it round 1 was because Psychic wasn't chosen yet, and so I figured that if I had left it on the board, it might get sniped by someone who decided to go monotype Psychic. This ended up sort of backfiring though, as actually nobody in my division decided to pick up monotype Psychic, and so that's a little bit unfortunate that I wasted a first pick on a type that wasn't chosen, but at the same time, since there's no Psychic team, that means that I'm going to be eating pretty well. It means I'm only going to be weak to Steel, which I can't hit offensively, and Ground, which hits me for super effective. So we are going to have some holes to patch up with regards to that, but no Psychic team is still overall a good thing. Anyways, back to Glowking here. Glowking is incredibly specially bulky. It absolutely eats up every single like neutral hit ever. It's an amazing pivot because of its amazing special bulk and its access to the move Chilly Reception, which sets up the snow and then it switches out, as you guys probably know. It also has some other supportive moves like Thunder Wave and Yawn, most namely, to sort of be disruptive. There's some other moves, of course, but I could only fit so many here on the slide. And then Slack Off and Regenerator as its ability will help keep it alive throughout the entire game, so it can continue to come in on a lot of neutral attacks and completely eat them up, and then punish switch-ins with a Thunder Wave or just Chilly out into a threat. So that's sort of the idea here with round 1 Slowking Galar. Next up, I decided to go ahead and grab Sneasler. One of the reasons, again, that I didn't grab this guy in the first round was because Fighting had picked before me, and so I knew that the Snake draft would come back to me before it came back to Fighting, and so I knew that I was guaranteed the Sneasler. So I decided to wait until round 2 to pick it up. And in terms of offensive firepower, again, I know that Poison needs it a lot. So I was very, very happy to pick up Sneasler here, as it is a very, very fast, very, very hard-hitting attacker. It has the Unburden ability in order to further abuse its speed and go even faster. It also has Poison Touch, which can be very good to whittle things down over the course of the game. It's also impossible to talk about Sneasler without mentioning Dire Claw. I don't think that Dire Claw is as broken as some people seem to think that it is, simply because its base power is kind of low and you can't always rely on getting the status that you want. However, that being said, it's really impossible to not like the move, as Dire Claw can certainly swing the game in your favor between getting like a game-changing paralysis or a surprise sleep or something like that. Then again, there's also some other important moves that it gets. It doesn't get too much coverage, but we do have Acrobatics and Fake Out in order to abuse the Unburden ability. Fake Out, obviously with the priority and the flinch effect, is pretty potent in terms of just activating a normal gem, and then suddenly your Unburden is activated and you're going super fast. In addition, once you've lost your item, Acrobatics becomes very powered up, and so that can be a move that I can run. I also do get Swords Dance for some setup and U-turn. Anyways, now on to round number 3. We go ahead and grab Iron Moth. We get ourselves a very strong special threat to match Sneasler in the physical department. Obviously, it's not quite as fast, but it hits very, very hard. We also have Fiery Dance in order to further boost the special attack. And then, of course, I can boost up my speed either with a booster energy to activate my Cork Drive ability, or I can run Agility and just get a +2 off rip. Another great thing about Iron Moth, and one of the most important things I think for monotype-poison, is that this guy has a very, very, very vast coverage option move pool. So if you imagine moves like Energy Ball, Dazzling Gleam, I think this gets like Flash Cannon, some electric moves, I'm pretty sure it gets Discharge. You name it, this Pokemon probably has a move of its type. It's very, very nice in terms of that, and being able to have very strong damage output in a variety of types, which, again, that's something that most poison types this generation are lacking. On top of that, it can also heal itself with Morning Sun. That's also pretty important for keeping it around, though I'm pretty sure that I probably won't be running this very often because it's probably better to just have another coverage move since I hit so hard. And then another move that I may not run quite as often but is also very important is going to be U-turn. If I think the opponent is going to have a strong answer into Iron Moth, then maybe I can just U-turn on it and get some momentum back as it switches in. So you never know. You never know what I'm going to run with this guy. Very, very versatile, very strong Pokemon. Now on to round number 4. We have Tentacruel here. Tentacruel is going to be another Spadef wall. I know I mentioned that I had Glowking up above, and so I should probably invest in some physical bulk, but don't worry, we'll get to that later. Don't you worry. Again, this guy's very specially bulky, and another great thing about it is it's an outstanding supportive mon. It has Rapid Spin, which is very, very important. The only spinner, I should say the only rapid spinner, spoiler alert, for the poison type is going to be this Tentacruel here. There is defog options on Pokemon like Weezing but unfortunately I was not able to get Weezing that instead went to the Monotype Fairy team, and I do think that as you'll see down the line, I have a very, very high hazard stack potential, and so I would rather run Rapid Spin anyways in order to not remove my own hazards, so I'm pretty okay with missing out on Weezing. Anyways, back on topic here with Tentacruel. On top of Rapid Spin, it also gets some other supportive moves like Knock Off to remove items, as well as Haze, so nothing can set up on it. It also gets Flip Turn, which is great, more momentum, and then even Acid Armor, so that that initially pretty weak base 65 defense can actually feel like a pretty strong defense. Another thing that I'd like to point out here with Tentacruel is that it's pretty surprisingly fast. It's base 100, and that's surprisingly difficult for a team of monotype poisons to achieve. There's a lot of very fast mons like Iron Moth, Sneasler, etc. And there's a lot of very, very slow mons, as you'll see down the line. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I think that this is my third fastest Pokemon overall, clocking in at base 100. So very important speed tier to fill. Tentacruel's here to do work this season, and I can't wait to use it. Alright, and now moving on to pick number 5, we grab our first of 3 Tera captains. It's going to be Revavroom with Tera Ground and Water. In the GLCC, we are allowed to have up to 3 Tera captains, each with 2 types that they can Tera into. And again, Revavroom is going to be the first of ours here this season. Revavroom in particular is a very, very strong setup sweeper, abusing shift gear as well as its filter ability in order to take less damage. And on top of that, I think that Tera is going to make it even more scary to stop from setting up. We do also have, in addition to a very, very strong stab move pool with Iron Head as well as Gunk Shot, things like that. We have high horsepower and Temper Flare, which I can definitely run in the correct matchups here. Steel types are going to be very, very difficult for a for a poison type in order to break. So I think that having these moves, having access to them is very important for my team. On top of that, I can also run a more defensive Revavroom with Parting Shot as a momentum move, as well as Haze to stop setup and things like that. I don't know, again, how often these sort of defensive options on my offensive Pokemon are going to come. But you never know. Once again, this is the beauty of Draft League, and I'm very, very excited to use Revavroom. I've never drafted it before. I've actually drafted it now kind of twice in 2 different drafts. I've got it on this draft, of course, and then I also have it in JJDL Season 3, where I actually don't have it as a Tera Captain, which is a little bit unfortunate. So we'll see how it performs in each of them, but I'm expecting it to do very, very well for me this season on monotype-poison, and I'm excited to get to use it. Next up, we have pick number 6. It's going to be Qwilfish Hisui. This is our first sort of physical wall. Obviously, it's not the best, seeing as it isn't fully evolved. However, it can hold an Eviolite, and this actually makes it bulkier than its counterpart in Overqwil, as well as bulkier than the regular Qwilfish, because that one can't hold an Eviolite. So I am very happy to have this guy on the team here. Alongside of its Eviolite and physical bulk, it will be able to intimidate Pokemon, and so obviously hitting this thing with a physical attack as it switches in is probably going to do minimal damage. I am a little bit wary that with the Eviolite sets you have to worry a lot about knockoff and things like that, as soon as that Eviolite gets knocked off, this guy becomes quite paper thin. As you can see with the stats here, it's only 65 HP and 85 defense. That's nothing to sneeze at, of course, but it's certainly not the strongest. However, Qwilfish here is important on our team for a multitude of other reasons. Firstly, because it is a psychic immunity for our poison team. Again, I said that there's not a psychic team in this season of the GLCC for my division. However, psychic moves do still exist, and so you never know if I'm going to be hit by a stray psychic move or a team has a psychic Pokemon on it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it is very important to have a dark type here. This is our only dark type. I decided to forego the other options of Overqwil and Alolan Muck to get some other tools that I figured would be more useful for me in the long run. So yeah, I suppose I am putting a little bit of pressure here on the Qwilfish, but I definitely think it can hold its line. It also has spikes. As I said, we have a lot of hazard potential. This is one of our setters. Spikes, of course, going to be very, very important to get stuff into Iron Moth and Sneasler range, as well as Tera Revavroom range. Now that I've revealed that, I can say that. We do also have Haze. A lot of Pokemon on my team getting Haze, so maybe don't bring setup into my teams. Please, guys, that would be ideal. Thanks. And then to keep itself alive, Qwilfish also gets Pain Split. And then for more momentum, we do have Flip Turn here. Next up, pick number 7. This was the final pick of mine that could actually be sniped, as there is a monotype ghost team as well. Everything that you see after Pecharunt here was absolutely guaranteed to be on my team as soon as round 1 ended. So that being said, Pecharunt here is going to be another physical wall as you can see by its massive 160 base defense stat. Very, very difficult to break, and alongside Qwilfish, it's going to be a physical attacking nightmare on the opponent's side of the team. Another thing that Pecharunt does here is it spin blocks for those spikes that Qwilfish can set up, and for the other hazards that I have along in the back. Pecharunt also has its signature move, Malignant Chain, which is very, very important, as I can go ahead and land poisons on a lot of things to get them in range of my big breakers again. And of course, if I do poison something with Pecharunt, Poison Puppeteer is going to activate and be very, very annoying, as what that ability does is pretty insane. Whenever Pecharunt poisons something, it also gets confused. So again, a physical attacker's nightmare, but in general, a Pokemon trainer's nightmare, as confusion is never fun to deal with, whether you're physical or special, to be honest. To take advantage of all of my poisoning potential on my entire team, Pecharunt also gets Stab Hex if I invest in it, or if I run Nasty Plot as well, because this Pokemon does get Nasty Plot. Hex can be doing some very big damage, so that's definitely something that my opponents are going to have to watch out for as well. And in addition, we have more momentum in Parting Shot, as well as some immediate recovery in Recover, which you love to see on a physical wall like Pecharunt. So another very important glue piece here for the team. Gotta love to see it. I've drafted this thing once before already. It's been alright so far, but I have a feeling that on this team, in filling its role here, it's going to definitely shine. Alright, and now on to pick 8, we have Glimmora. Glimmora is another very, very important Pokemon for the team. However, it is picked pretty late again because it was guaranteed, as there is no monotype rock team, so nobody could snipe me, which was good. So the first thing to note with Glimmora, of course, is that it is probably the best Pokemon at setting hazards in the entire game right now. With Toxic Debris, its ability, as well as getting access to both rocks and spikes, it can definitely set up a lot of hazards, and so I'm looking forward to abusing that. Another thing to note on Glimmora is that it has the Corrosion ability, which means that if I fight the Monotype Steel team, or if I just fight a team with a pretty strong Steel Pokemon, I'll actually be able to Toxic it, which is pretty important for my team in order to get that damage on Pokemon that normally I would struggle to break. Another thing to note with Glimmora is its access to its signature move, Mortal Spin. It's similar to Rapid Spin, but it's Poison type, and so Ghost types can't block it, which is really nice. However, I don't think that Glimmora will be running Mortal Spin too often, as I have Tentacruel once again up above, which has the ability to Rapid Spin. And this is great because it frees up Glimmora to take advantage of its massive 130 special attack stat. Look at that. It can run some of its very, very powerful stab moves, Sludge Wave, Sludge Bomb, probably Sludge Wave most of the time, as well as on the rock side of things, it now gets Meteor Beam in addition to Power Gem, and it also gets some great coverage moves, Energy Ball, Earth Power, D-Gleam, you name it. So similar to Iron Moth in that respect, a very, very strong Pokemon in terms of special attack that also gets some pretty good coverage. So Glimmora overall fills a lot of roles for my team. It's a very, very important Pokemon, and I'm happy to have it on board. Next up, we have pick number 9, our second of 3 Tera captains. I'm super excited about this. It's our boy Vileplume, and they say to learn from your mistakes, right? That's how the saying goes. Last season of the GLCC, I actually lost to a team with my dragon types that was monotype grass, and part of the problem was Moonblast on a Tera Fairy, or was it Tera Fairy? No, I don't think it was. It might have just been Tera Water or Poison. I think those were the two types. But anyways, I learned that this thing had Moonblast, and I actually lost the game to it, which was pretty embarrassing. So learning from my mistakes here, I'm going to go ahead and pick up Tera Vileplume for myself, this time with Fairy and Fire. Fire to sort of break down the steals again, and then Fairy to take advantage of Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, and things like that. Obviously, I don't have any other Fairy type damage output with Wheezing Galar being sniped, and I think that Pheasantipede is like the worst Pokemon of all time, so I will never draft that thing unless I have to. So there you go, Tera Fairy Vileplume, how nice. I do also think that its base 110 special attack is surprisingly usable, even in the current state of things. Obviously, it's not very fast, and it also kind of dies in 1 or 2 hits. However, you can't deny that it is very important for the poison type because of its base grass typing. Obviously, with that, it's going to be ground neutral. Everything on my team up until this Pokemon has been weak to ground in its base typing, so it's very, very important for me to grab a grass type. Unfortunately, points were a little bit tight. I would have loved to have a Pokemon like Amoonguss or Venusaur on the team, as those guys are much more built for a defensive role. However, Vileplume, he's gonna do the job. I'm happy for him. So there you go. Another thing that Vileplume can do is be an excellent support Pokemon between Effect Spore as well as its very diverse move pool in terms of things like Stun Spore, Poison Powder, Sleep Powder. It can definitely spread a lot of status conditions, which could be good for a Hex Pecharunt once again. It can also spam annoying moves like Leech Seed, Synthesis, and Strength Sap in order to completely goober down and wilt and just be an annoying Pokemon for my opponent to deal with. A true thorn in their side, if you will. So anyways, probably one of the Pokemon on my team that I'm most happy about being able to use here. Hopefully it pulls its weight. Who knows? This guy might also just end up sucking ass, and I'm gonna regret not picking up Amoonguss or Venusaur for some more points. But realistically, I really couldn't get those guys. So Vileplume, I'm happy for him here. Next up, we have pick number 10, the second to last Pokemon on this team. It's going to be Weezing. Similar to its Galarian counterpart, Weezing is important because it has Levitate and because it has Will-O-Wisp, which can stop more physical attackers. Obviously, its HP isn't that good, but if you look at that 120 base defense stat, if you just invest a little bit in HP, this thing is going to be taking some hits. And then if you consider Pain Split, again, Will-O-Wisp and Stockpile as well, just to sort of boost up, you can definitely imagine this thing being very difficult for physical attackers to remove. And if they want to try and boost up to remove, then I also do have Haze as a possibility here. So yeah, very, very happy about getting a Weezing. I wish it was Weezing Galar, but it is what it is here. I do think... So there you go, very, very happy to get a Weezing here, a ground immunity, very important for my team. I do wish it was Weezing Galar again, but at the end of the day, not too bad. Pretty happy with Weezing here. And then just to round things off, we have our final Tera Captain costing me only 1 point. We have Ariados. I picked Ariados out of all of the 1 and 2 pointers left because of 2 things. The first thing is Sticky Webs, obviously. This guy can definitely run that, and given the hazard stacking potential and the absolute monster of a spin blocker I have in Pecharunt, I think that if I do end up bringing webs into 1 or 2 games, they will probably be up to stay, to be honest. And in addition, if Pecharunt's not there, I can also Tera Ghost just to sort of spin block for myself, if that makes sense. On top of that, another reason why I ended up getting Ariados, as silly as it sounds, I needed some priority on my team. I think the only priority I have is like Quick Attack Sneasler. Maybe it gets some other priority. Like, I think it gets Upper Hand. Yeah, because it ran Upper Hand last season in the GLCC. But yeah, I have literally no priority on my team. And this guy gets Shadow Sneak, and it also gets Sucker Punch. So there you go. Ghost and Dark Tera to boost those. Hooray! And so hopefully this guy will be doing some amount of damage with that base 90. It does get Swords Dance. I looked in its move pool, and it does get Agility so that it can become, I don't want to say fast. Even base 80 is not fast, but it can move. So there you go. Another, of course, very important supportive move for Ariados is going to be Knock Off. And if we, for some reason, do not get killed while we're setting up our Sticky Webs, we can even get a slow, and I mean slow, base 40 again, Baton Pass out into a different Pokemon. So, there you go. Ariados, a little bit of a cherry on top. He's the last guy on the team, and he's certainly the least important guy on the team. But, similar to Vileplume, I'm happy for him. I am happy that Ariados is here, and Ariados will be here to stay. Unless some things happen. We'll see. I know that sounded super ominous, but he's gonna be here for a while. and I'm happy for him. And so that is going to be the team that the Seattle Slashers have picked up for Season 2 of the GLCC here. I'm very, very excited to use this. I think that Poison, again, has sort of had a redemption arc as a type, and I'm excited to use it once more. Do I think this team is as good as my Season 1 Dragon type team? No, not even close. Not even close, but I do think out of the possible Poison types that I could have gotten, I kind of checked all of the boxes almost. You know, I got Sneasler, I got Glow King, I got Iron Moth, I got Tentacruel, I got Glamora, I got Tera Revavroom, that was pretty important, and I even got some defensive pieces to help me out. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think I did pretty well this draft. The Poison team in the other division was getting sniped left to right, and I had a few snipes, like missed out on Tera Grafii. Normal ended up taking that, which was a little bit unfortunate. And then again, I lost out on the Wheezing, but that was pretty much nothing compared to what the other team, what the other Poison team in the opposite division was going through. So I'm pretty happy that I ended up with such a potent team like this one. So there you go. Anyways, I'm excited to see you guys down the road in GLCC Season 2. We will be doing some power rankings here on the channel. That should be up hopefully like Sunday-ish. Yeah, I think Sunday was the day that they're gonna go up, so be ready for that. And then after that, get ready for week 1. We're jumping straight back into the action here on the GLCC. So with that all being said, that's gonna be it from me. I'm excited to use this Poison type team, and until the next time, go Seattle Slashers.